Welcome to the Soft Issues. Welcome to the Soft Issues podcast. On this episode, Matt and Wei talk to Gillian Corke, an educator and sports coach with over 20 years' experience, about emotional intelligence in bike fitting and coaching.
Anyway, welcome to the Soft Issues podcast today. And today we are in Gillian's, I was about to say living room again, but I already made that mistake. We're in the kitchen with Gillian Corke, who runs an amazing little enterprise called Contact Point, which is all about communication for bike fitters. Is that about right? I think.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about this podcast today and just the opportunity to speak to you, because I've actually been on some of your other courses, which have been more related to parenting and communication, how parents can communicate better with their children. And it's been so useful in just understanding how all of us communicate. Communication is king, as they say. Nothing gets done without good communication. But you've now brought this more into a bike fitting arena.
Yeah.
So yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about you, yourself, what you do, and all your amazing work?
Oh, thanks, Wei. I've really appreciated the time that we've spent together doing this work, and this really unique opportunity that I have personally to bring it to the bike fitting world. There's an awful lot going around at the moment about improving communication and about positive role modelling, positive communication. There's a lot. I was just reading a whole load of teachers complaining about their CPD for the start of term, saying, has everyone been on the same course? They're all starting with your why. My why's still the same. I want to get money. Which I think is fair enough. And so it's a really interesting point in time to be there where people are recognising the need for this stuff and also starting to see the good from the bad, the wood from the trees, the sincere from the insincere. And the work that I do is really kind of rooted in sincerity, in mutual dignity and respect. And I grew up in the 80s and 90s in the Northeast, where the worst thing that you could be was fake.
Right.
And you're nodding.
I grew up in a similar sort of situation.
Yeah. And so the very essence of what I do is just giving people space to see what it is that they want, what they need, and become aware of the impact of their presence on a space. And in the bike fitting world, I've been in it for 15 years now, kind of in the background. Oh my gosh.
You're married to a bike fitter.
I'm married to a bike fitter. And so, Tony was a skateboarder when I met him. I didn't even know he liked bikes. Right. I was literally there with him when he went for his first interview for Cycle Fit, when he'd been working as a salesperson for BT on the phone. And we literally went together, like tandem, down Richmond Hill to go for an interview at a pub. So I've kind of just always been there in the background of it, meeting the people, hearing the stories, hearing the random stuff that goes on, all the moans about customers, all the moans about grumpy mechanics, the moans about the parts changing, so I've just kind of been steeped in it, and I had this amazing opportunity just before COVID happened to completely retrain in what I was doing, because I was a teacher before that. And as I wasn't quite sure what the training was for, and then as the time's gone on, it's become more and more obvious. And this little niche that I've got with the bike fitting world and with the custom bike world and the handmade bike world is it's something that I know really well, and it's something where if you work in a corporate environment, you get client interaction training, you get sales training. But if you work in an independent world and in the cycling industry, it's very person to person, it's very ad hoc. Even the large corporations are not working on the scale of it, like Price Waterhouses and what have you. So it's a really underserved community for this kind of stuff. And I actually know all you guys personally before I do any of it, and so it's kind of like, it's just like, let's sit and have a cup of tea and chat about a few things, and like a directed chat that gets you to think about stuff you might not have touched on before and look at things from a different angle slightly.
Yeah, I guess what's really nice is that what you teach is really very much about general communication and your ability to relate to your fellow human beings and why they react in certain ways and how you can understand your own emotions, but bringing, or certainly recently now, bringing that into the context of a bike fitter, and how that becomes like a really, really important part of how we conduct ourselves and what we do as part of our jobs. Because essentially we spend 4 hours in a room together with another fellow human being.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to, there's a skill involved in relating and communicating with that other person. Otherwise, you know,
it's a pretty dry 4 hours. Otherwise, isn't it?
But you came from primarily a kind of parenting kind of background.
With this work, it's come from Positive Discipline, which is a parenting program which has been going for like 40 years. But that's rooted in Adlerian psychology. So this is one of the things I wanted to bring out, actually. It's rooted in Adlerian psychology, which its other name is individual psychology. And that is a word, when you get into this whole world of like fakes and reels and stuff, individual is a word that's really been taken and twisted to what it doesn't mean. It actually means indivisible.
Right.
Like everything's connected, everyone is connected. And my input into that is indivisible from what happens with the whole, rather than I'm the boss, I'm the man. Do what I say.
Oh, how did that's really interesting. How did that happen? Is that just that's just a cultural shift then from the community that we used to kind of occupy to one of individualism, that kind of singular. I don't know. I'm just guessing it.
There's all of that. I mean, you can get into all sorts of stuff with it, but when you come down to two people in a room and a bicycle and try and facilitate that other person's desire with their riding, if you're coming at it from a I'm the dude, do what I say kind of point of view, whose dream is it you're facilitating?
Well, what's interesting is that maybe quite a lot of people expect that, or you may go to a bike fitter because you feel they're an expert and you're there to be told what to do. Maybe. I've certainly had a few people come through the studio who feel like that should be the kind of level at which you're at. Maybe we fit in a slightly different way in thinking about fitting as more of a partnership, and two different kind of people trying to kind of solve an issue.
But that's an interesting point, isn't it? So Joe Bloggs comes in for a fit. He's got his brand new bike. There might be an expectation there, and in those first sort of 10-15 minutes, and this is what you're kind of, I think, getting at, Gillian, as well, is that initial communication, setting those expectations about how it is that we're here to work together. This is a collaborative process. I can't do this without you. You can't do this without me. you can set the tone for how that whole 4 hours is going to go in those first 10, 15 minutes, those first couple of sentences, those first couple of interactions.
Yeah.
And I don't know, would you kind of like, if you were to sort of give like not like a 101, but like, you know, a top kind of like tip for setting kind of that tone and expectation, like what would that, how would you approach that kind of scenario and interaction to get like the best result at the end possible for that individual? How would you go about those first 10 minutes?
I think you just expressed it really well. I think when we do one of the activities I do first up with people. So this is the other thing about what I do, is all experiential. So I'm not going to sit and tell you like, say this, do this. We're going to try a few things out, and then I pull out from people, how did that feel? What were you thinking about yourself? What were you thinking about the other person? And what did you decide about yourself in that moment? So you could set up a situation to be, I think we did this the first week when I did it with you and John and Tony.
Yeah.
And you can set it up and you'll be like, right, okay, Matt, put your bike there, get on there. I want you doing however many revolutions, 20 minutes, and I'm just going to watch your legs. So what would you be thinking about the bike fitter in that situation?
Bit draconian. It's like, nice to meet you. Like, break the ice a little bit. No, all right, straight in. All right, off we go.
What might you decide to do?
As the rider,
As the rider,
in the situation.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know, like from my experience on the other side of the fence as a fitter, you tend to see people go off way too hard. They're trying to impress you. They're trying to be like, yeah, this is easy. How hard are you pedaling? Yeah, 4 or 5 out of 10. No worries. Like, you know, and then, yeah, you're trying to like give a good first impression, because it's become down to you then to create that first impression. You haven't been kind of afforded that space to kind of be that genuine person. Like, you know, we were talking about fake and real like a few minutes ago. It's like you're trying to be someone you're not, because you haven't been afforded the time to make that genuine impression.
Yeah, like people do. You do say you can tell a lot about. I don't know. Maybe there's some intuition as soon as someone walks in the room. You know, those first few things that happen, that interaction, like get like a handshake. You know, you
that's my favourite analogy, isn't it? Yeah, it's like, good handshake, or what do you want me to do with that? Shake it or kiss it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So the other side of that role play, so we all in working in this experiential way, you do it. What would be backwards? You do it first, and then you talk about it afterwards. So the other flip side of that would be, oh hi, how can I help you? What bike have you brought today?
Yeah, so immediately feeling much more welcome, and you can come and talk about. You know, you're asking. I don't know.
That's quite an open question, though, isn't it? So it's like you're not really kind of like directing the conversation that well. It's just kind of like, you could talk about anything and everything, and then you can get like down this whole like rabbit hole that you don't want to go down. So you have to kind of like, I see where this is going. You have to ask like pointed questions that are open enough to spark a discussion, but pointed enough to get the information you need to help that person, right? Without imposing your agenda, projecting what you think is right onto that individual straight away.
Right. Okay. So let's flip it. You be the bike fitter this time, then. So we'll do the one in the middle.
Okay.
How would you welcome me?
So, how would I welcome you? I'd usually crack a joke, because I feel very uneasy meeting new people, which is interesting given the job I'm in. So I don't know, I usually start with like hot beverages, tea, coffee, that sort of thing. But yeah, so lightheartedly, what are your cycling hopes, dreams, and ambitions?
Interesting. Now I'm piqued. I'm like, you want to know about me?
Yeah. So, but what I like about that is that it points it. So I'm kind of interested in why you're here, but in a light-hearted kind of way. It gives me an idea as to why you're here, what your goals are, and points the conversation like where I want it to go, but without imposing too much onto it. And it seems like a flippant. Maybe I'm bigging myself up too much here. I don't know, but it seems like a off the cuff, flippant kind of question. But you get people kind of talking, and you can then ask questions about the answers that you're getting. So one of the favourite things I kind of like is what, why, and how. Like, what do you want? Why do you want it? And how are we going to get there?
And how are we going to get there?
Exactly. Like, how can I help you to help yourself?
Yeah.
Basically, it's not kind of like you say, right, these are your goals. This is where you currently are. This is how we're going to get there. Let's explore some of this stuff. I'm not going to tell you how to do it because I don't know yet until we get into it. But I'm here to help you explore and make better informed decisions. And what are your cycling hopes, dreams, and ambitions? It sounds like it's quite a light-hearted kind of way to get to some quite detailed information quite quickly. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much and giving myself a bit too much credit there, but
no, I think it's true. Like, we've been bike fitting long enough and seen enough people to kind of make that judgment quite quickly. You quickly realise what does and what doesn't work. Yeah. But people want to. They want to talk about themselves. That's why they're here. They're here to be helped in a certain kind of way. But you have to present a welcoming.
Yeah, like an opening gambit, basically, isn't it? It's like a negotiation.
And the way that you open it determines which route the fit will take over the rest of the course of the thing, and whether you're going to have to scramble to pull it back in again, or whether you you think about, like you're riding a horse almost. Is the horse going to run away with you, or are you working together to get where you want to go? And I see people who they haven't, for whatever personal reasons, for example, that, oh, hi, how are you doing? What's your, why are you here? They might have something inside them that says, I can't ask this person what they really want to do because they're not, maybe I'm being nosy, or I'm being, so there's kind of personal issues to work through that then determine the outcome. But quite often people have got, I'm certainly honestly do this, you've just got no idea why. Why is this not working? Why are my fits taking 4 hours and this other guy's only taking half an hour? Why does this guy's clients come back and mine never speak to me ever again? And those little bits, if you're open and you're kind of ready to do the work yourself, the stuff that I do just gives the little tick to the little push to the start of the question for you then it to unravel itself for you, and then the change in how long the fit takes, or whether that person will actually come back to you when they've got a problem, or whether there was someone who just kept ordering stuff instead of looking at what they actually had and using it. And so they just keep ordering, and then they'd have a huge stockpile room full of stuff that was never used. And when they'd order new stuff, and so there's something going on for themselves there with that, So that's the kind of the deeper side of it. But you only go there if you want to and if you're ready.
Yeah, I guess the better you understand yourself, then the better you can be with other people. Like if you don't understand why you have certain feelings towards certain things, or kind of why you want people to be in a certain way on a bike, for example, then it's really hard to relate to other people or get other people to kind of relate to you. And bike fitting is very much a partnership in like you have to work at the issue together, really, to get good results. So I guess that's that really super valuable thing that you do, is to try and get people to be introspective and kind of think about what they're doing and who they are. But it's really hard as well. It brings up a lot of stuff. And maybe that's why I don't know, like why it hasn't it doesn't often get talked about.
Yeah.
Well, it's a hard thing to talk about in the first place.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
It is a hard thing, and what I've noticed over the years is that the people who are coming for the bike fits, and also the people who get into bike fitting, it's not about the bikes and it's not about the bike fitting. It's about that coming together and that shared passion. But that's almost invariably something to do with a because whatever. And when you're able to get to a point of accepting that because whatever, you can kind of enjoy the fit more and enjoy the riding more. And like you were saying, like just opening up that space for the people to be like, all right, okay, this is why I'm here. We had, well, bless his heart, we had someone come to us for a bike fit because his daughter had passed away.
wow.
And he wanted to do something good for himself. And all he did was just book a bike fit and showed up. And this came out within 10 minutes.
Wow.
And, you know.
That's it. If you're asking the right questions, you can get to some really pointed information really quite quickly.
Yeah.
And then it gives you much more kind of like tools to work with to get the best outcome for that person. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like I say, if this chap like was, you know, wanted to do something for himself after like a quite traumatic life kind of change situation, then yeah, like the sooner you can figure that out, the better placed you're going to be to help that customer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's his aim and his desire, which was unspoken previously, that you're then fulfilling rather than what you think his bike should look like.
Exactly. Yeah.
And have you seen that change, like over the years? Like you've been with Tony, you know, through his bike fitting journey, and have you seen, even in Tony, like have you seen how he's kind of navigated the different kind of spaces, or how he's approached his bike fitting?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because I guess we've been together since we were young people, and now we're middle-aged people. And so, you know, I got to be honest, when you've got a under almost 30-ish English guy in America, the cougars come out.
Yeah.
And so we had to navigate middle-aged women coming for bike fits with the sexy English guy.
Yeah.
Which was quite interesting, you know, looking at your faces like, oh, but it happened, you know, it absolutely happened. And so we had to work out, it started off like, oh, I'm getting a lot of female customers. And then it was like, oh, I'm getting a lot of female customers. Okay, I'm going to have to just like change my approach here a little bit. And that's when recognizing your personal boundaries come in as well. You know, I want to be friendly. I want to, come out for a drink. Hold on a second, this isn't what I wanted. So how do you navigate that personal, professional zone? How do you navigate being in quite close physical contact with another human being in some quite sensitive areas without it getting weird?
So it's like the emotional intelligence is almost like a toolbox that you can use to navigate potentially difficult situations as well. Right? And I guess definitely. It's probably not something that like a lot of people think about. It's like, right, how can I use my language, like, you know, verbal body language, to be kind of like portraying what I want to portray and like an open, friendly environment, but have those boundaries in as well, right? And it's like, you know, like that's one example. Like another example is you get takers. You know, you give an inch, you take a mile, all that kind of stuff. It's like, how can you be friendly but firm in where your boundaries are? And I guess these are all kind of like tools in your emotional intelligence toolbox, right? And that's something that, you know, you don't figure out until you've kind of experienced it or, you know, been through it. It's like, oh yeah, right, I need to work at this because this is quite useful.
Yeah.
So yeah, having, you know, guidance through that kind of, like you can use your kind of use your words, if you like, use your words, you know, and how you kind of put yourself across can also be a protective mechanism as well as one of opening up a dialogue, if you like, as well.
Yeah.
And do you find that, like, I don't know, fitters are generally, I find, a weird bunch. I say that because I'm one. Like, do you find it's quite, I don't know, what's your experience in terms of kind of the like character traits, trends that you, I know everyone's individual, but are there certain traits and trends that you see time and time again that kind of fitters need to kind of like could do with working on a bit more? Or
Oh, interesting.
what do you see from your perspective?
From my perspective, being the fly on the wall and hearing and seeing success and failure stories and what have you, the people who stick at it and the people who really like it are generally really solid people. Honestly, the ones who do it, just really genuine, really detail orientated without being obsessive, people orientated without being crazy extroverts. The ones who'll be willing to go that little extra mile, but not all the way to the end of the earth. And you know, it's really balanced people. The ones that we get anyway. The ones who don't stick with what we're doing are the ones who are fleeing from something else. So, for example, there was a time where we were getting loads of people who'd left their jobs in IT and they wanted to do something else. And they like numbers and they like riding their bikes, so they thought they'd become a bike fitter. And so we had quite a few of them. And also bankers who got made redundant and got a payment, who were then setting up their own bike shop with a coffee shop. Yeah. And, and they lasted 2-3 years because it's not their passion, it's not their it's not their why. And they realised that actually there's not a lot of money in bike fitting, and you do it because you love it, because you see the need and because you see what it does for other people, I think. They're the ones. The other ex-service people as well do really well, because they're coming from a similar sort of mindset, and it gives them the freedom to do whatever they want on the other side of it as well. Like pure physios, it's usually just a little add-on to add to what they're doing. We get a few sort of interested hobbyists. I just like doing courses and I'm interested in bikes, and so they'll come and have a tinkle, but they don't do very much with it. But yeah, I really enjoy being around the bike fitting scene and bike fit people, and the cross element with the hand built bicycle scene as well is very good, because the fit informs the bill, which then I did a whole marketing thing a while ago that went nowhere, but I had fun doing it, around facilitating people's dreams, because you're not getting that custom bike with those colours with that paint because you want it to hang on the wall. It's because you want it to do something, and where do you want to go with it? So I really enjoyed that kind of journey process as well.
Oh, you have to listen to the podcast we did with Tony.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned about custom bikes, because this is often a long drawn out process. And there's a lot of communication back and forth between various kind of moving parts in that process. And if one point of communication breaks down, then that can derail the whole project, right? So learning how to like communicate with your customer, different people through the industry, like, the frame builder, the fitter, like, whose responsibility is what, who's designing the bike, who's, all this kind of stuff. It's tricky, and it's a proper challenge. And that kind of, that eloquent, direct, but open and personable kind of communication is a lot of time, in my kind of view, in the bike industry lacking. I don't know, because maybe, I don't know, folks don't have kind of like a broad enough range of experience, like outside of the bike industry. Maybe they get jaded with it. I don't know, like everyone's individual. But I think like if from your like kind of, you've been, around this stuff for a super long time, what would you kind of like to see improved in these kind of like processes, like the fit process, the custom bike process? How could we as fitters, in your opinion, do this better?
That's a really good question. As you're talking there, I'm just thinking through all of the... I don't think the clients really fully appreciate the number of steps and the number of parts and the number of calls and the number of orders that actually go into making a custom bike. And when I've seen it go well, it's someone who can manage large-scale information gathering and not get stressed by it and not get stressed by having to ask for that thing again. And when I've seen it break down, it's people who can't keep records and people who think, oh, that doesn't matter, I'll just grab the thing out of the cupboard. So as you're talking about that, what will be useful? I'm thinking there's like loads of tools around just coming out now about like how to manage your life with ADHD. Use this, this tool. And I think actually some kind of thing like that for the custom bike world, where they do sort of exist, but they're not human focused. They're computer focused, and they're like quite idiosyncratic between the manufacturers as well. So if someone could work out like a job flow where you just put your thing in after each call or after each part order, that then you get the thing where the routine's the boss. Yeah. Rather than, I can see my job going along and I've got to ask this next. So you don't get the awkward interpersonal thing, I've got to go and ask them again. Yeah. It's like I'm in the flow of this job management thing.
But what you just described there is basic project management.
Yeah. And like you say, there's like, people in the cycling industry, this is what I was touching on earlier as well, you just don't get that training. People come because they like the bikes or they like mechanics, and they don't get the project management stuff. And, so like us being musicians, I get like that. I did a music degree. I did and I was thinking about this the other day, I did analysing large-scale symphonic works down to 3 notes. Like literally. And so that kind of thinking is there, and I could draw on it. But if you've got someone who's been riding their bike around in the dirt for 10 years and now needs another job, well, they've got that thinking, but it just hasn't been formalised into a pen and paper thing that can be passed on to someone else.
Yeah, I think there's definitely within the bike industry, maybe because it's a small industry, it's just, there's a lot of just make do. You just kind of get on with it and figure it out as you go along. Yeah. But as like the stakes become higher, I guess, when you're dealing with people's bodies and their dreams and their bikes, then all these soft skills, in inverted commas, become far more valuable, important in creating that dream, I guess.
The outworking of it's a lot more tangible than when you can see it. I just remember Andy Carr at Spoon Customs, he brought in a project manager, someone who actually was a project manager. And the difference in workflow once that happened was just day and night. And Tony's like, why didn't we do this ages ago? And as soon as that person left, it all started to disintegrate again. So he had set up the processes, but there wasn't someone there when he left. There wasn't someone there making it keep going.
Just oiling the machine.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
But I think it goes back to the point what John was saying earlier when we were talking about custom bikes and custom frames. It's like we kind of need to
let the cat out.
Like we need to expect like more of the bike industry in a way. It's like like you said, we're making do, with something that's kind of all right, sort of works, you'll kind of get to the end result. It might be a bit painful, you might have to pull some teeth, all that kind of stuff. But why can't we make it slick?
Yeah, I mean, so much of my experience of people ordering custom things and doing things just break down all the time because of the lack of communication. Like, you order a part from Italy and they say, oh yeah, it's going to be here in 5 weeks, but invariably it takes like 10 weeks, but they don't tell you, and so you get really annoyed about it. And then you come to expect that, like, oh, if I order something from Italy, it's going to be 10 weeks. But then they take the whole of August off, and then it's, you know, something else. But and it's always those kind of managing expectations that become kind of tricky.
Yeah, but that's important in a bike fit. And that's, like, again, first 10, 15 minutes, you're managing expectations of what this is going to do. So again, you are kind of like, and this is a tricky thing, because you do have to kind of like obviously be open and like receptive and ask the right questions and do all this kind of stuff. But you have to manage expectations as well. It's like, this is not a silver bullet. I'm not Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I'm not going to cure all your woes with the wave of a magic wand. This is a process, and I'm here to help you through it. And I'm here for, you know, whatever it is that you need, and kind of like to help you, but I can't do it for you. So it's kind of like that kind of tricky kind of communication, kind of grey area, if you like, of being kind of open but firm. It's like you were saying, Gillian, about boundaries.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the process, this is what we can get from it, but these are kind of some potential limitations as well.
I think you describe it as creating agreements.
Yeah.
Like, within that kind of initial meeting, you have to create agreements between fitter and customer, and if we can agree, then, you know, this process can go forward. If it doesn't, then doesn't. In the same way that parents and children have to create agreements.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always blown away by how much people love the agreements. I really love it. And when you do like a 6 week course, you return to the agreements every week. And it's a bit weird the first week. You're like, why are we doing this? All right. But then the second week, you go back and you're like, actually, that was really good, because that set the framework for what we could do. And if I didn't have that agreement, I wouldn't have been able to get to that bit of work, because I wouldn't have felt safe.
Sorry, just to clarify for me, who hasn't been on your course, what do you mean by the agreements? So
literally, we'll sit and we'll make an agreement. So like, what do you want this course to be like? What do you want the space to be like? What are people doing? What are they saying? How are people treating each other for this to be the best course that it possibly could be? And we do a brainstorm. So invariably we'll get what goes in Vegas stays in Vegas. We'll get no judgment. And then I go, okay, no judgment. So if you're not judging, what are you going to do? And then people go, oh. What am I going to do? And then that gets the cogs whirring. And so we do that. And then we'll say, okay, so that's what we want. What are we going to do to make that happen? And then we'll go through and say, so we're going to call if we're going to be late. We're going to do our best to do the reading. We're going to show up on time. We're going to exchange numbers so that we can talk about it afterwards if we want to. Whatever it is for whatever the group is. There's always slight different variations. But once you've got that agreement, then you're like, okay, now we've got our agreements. If we go outside of these, we can hold each other to it, because this is what we all said that we wanted. So if, for example, we said that we wouldn't talk loudly, for example, but someone's starting shouting, you can say, hey, Gillian, we said we weren't going to talk loudly. And you're, oh, yeah, sorry. And then you carry on. So it's another example of letting the routines be the boss, letting the rules be the boss. These are agreements that we've all made, and so you can have that accountability to it. And it's a really neat way of just holding the form throughout the weeks. And with it, building up, there's a lot of material out at the moment about psychological safety, and it really does build up and hold that psychological safe space, but it's not an imposed space. It's a one that everyone's made together. And so this is part of building up the group. That you were saying, it's so nice to have 4 bike fitters in a room. You'll work on your own or in pairs, and you don't often come together. So building up that part of building the community, we were talking about communication and a communal space, and it's a community of bike fitters. So commune means to come together and to talk.
How we used to do life.
How we used to do life.
Industrial revolution.
Right.
How we used to do life. Yeah.
And so that's what the agreements are about. And it's amazing because I'm trying to pull this thing off the wall to show you, but I can't. I'll show you. It's amazing how people will come after a few sessions or in the middle of a session and go, I've literally never been able to think about that before. Thank you for making the space where I could do that. And I'm like, I just put the guidelines there. You guys are making the space between you. And they're like conversations that are waiting to happen. They just need the right environment for it to happen in.
Yeah, what's a really interesting bit of feedback we get all the time from our clients after they've had a bike fit is how surprised they are at how welcoming or friendly the environment is, and that they were pretty they took a risk coming to see us. They thought that it was going to be really serious or it was going to be really intimidating, but they were still willing to take a risk to come and see us, and that's like a really big kind of step. But yeah, within that 10 minutes, then we have to kind of acknowledge that, and you can tell it. I don't know, we've just seen so many riders that you kind of know when people are kind of a little bit nervous or a little bit scared, and they have come to you for some help, but they need to know that it's a safe space, and they need to know that we can agree. And so much of that first initial encounter with us is so important. You can create or break the kind of
classic one is like new cyclists, isn't it? That there's one particular customer, that springs to mind. It's just like, I'm not good enough to have a bike fit.
All the time.
This is super risky. And it's like, well, no, it's like you are you're prime candidate for a fit, because we can give you so much if you kind of trust us. And you've got to earn that trust. But it's that kind of creating that welcoming environment for whoever walks through the door, whether you've been riding more years than I've been alive, or if you just picked up a bike, a couple of months ago, it doesn't make a difference. And you're creating that environment for that individual. But the word I like to use, Gillian, was accountability. You're, again, as you put, creating that agreement between fitter and rider, that we're both going to be accountable to a set of parameters to get an end result, whatever that result kind of needs to be, whether that's pain-free cycling, more performance, new bike, whatever. It's okay, here's the goal. We're going to work backwards from it. Yeah. And these are the stepping stones that we need to do to get to that end. But that accountability is very important. And I like that word. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use it more.
You're so weak. I can provide it.
Actually, funnily enough, it just got me thinking about one of the phrases I use the most during a fit that can be really effective is just asking someone, does that make sense? Or is that okay with you? And it's just getting them to be like, yeah, it does make sense, or no, it doesn't make sense. Can you tell me again? But we spend so much time educating, but it doesn't mean anything if people don't kind of acknowledge it, or it doesn't make any, if they don't know what you're talking about. Or,
do you know what the root of the word education is?
No.
To draw forth.
To draw forth.
Yeah.
To bring out.
Yeah.
To draw forth knowledge.
Yeah.
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 I was just thinking, if I use the words, do that make sense? It's not that I think you don't understand what I'm saying, it's because I think I'm incoherent.
Yeah.
I'm asking myself, does that make sense?
I guess maybe intonation has a big influence there. Does that make sense?
But it's interesting, isn't it? It's like, like that kind of like reinforcement is like, are you with me here?
Yeah.
Like, are you getting what you need from this?
Yeah.
Am I going off on one a little bit?
Yeah.
Or am I being incoherent?
Education.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Cogs are turning now,
Yeah, I'm going to have to
Yeah.
do a bit of thinking again.
Yeah.
This always happens when we talk to you.
Oh no! I tried a useful one for that. A useful little phrase can be, "Tell me what your understanding is of."
Yeah, I guess.
Or something around that.
Yeah, and then being quiet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I guess like that, I like that. Tell me what your understanding is or of is. If you say, if it's a direct question, do you understand? I find sometimes ego can get in the way. So yeah, I totally understand what you're getting. Like not a clue. Yeah, it's like in one ear out the other. It's like, what was that? Yeah. But again, it's just the way you phrase stuff, isn't it? Making it okay to, maybe get clarification on something. No judgment here. I'll explain it again in a different way. It's like, it's all good. So yeah, how, and like this has got me thinking now, how I communicate, and am I using the best kind of like choice of words, like phrases? Am I creating enough like of a space to get that feedback? Or am I just being like, yeah, you understand, right? Yeah, let's move
Right.
on.
Is that your lovely description of your starting with your goal for your bike fit? If you start with that for your communication as well, rather than am I using the best words? What's my goal for this? Oh, I just touched my microphone, so if that went weird. What's my goal for this? My goal is open communication, for example, to find the outcome that the rider wants.
Yeah.
And how am I going to use my language to do that?
I guess my turn of phrase, there's no such thing as a daft question.
Right.
Again, maybe a bit lighthearted, but gets the point across.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
So this is what we do. We
Yeah.
do 2 days doing it. The thing I was trying to pull off the wall. I'm going to do it because I just wanted to show you one thing that we're talking about ego getting in the way. This is where judgment can get in the way, which is led by ego.
So, just to describe to the listeners, this is a choice map. I'm just going to read it out. We choose moment by moment. It's a road with...
It's a fork in the road, basically,
Fork
isn't
in the
it?
road,
Yeah.
and the two forks lead to kind of sunshine and mountains and the learner, and the other side is muddy and it leads to the judger. And there's a kind of middle lane, which is a switch.
I'm going to have a bit of fun here. Can I try and interpret this and you can shoot me down?
Yeah, go for it.
So, we all have a choice to make, right? About which way we want to go. Which fork in the road do we want to take? So you choose the path to enlightenment and the learner mindset, whereby, it's an open dialogue, like safe space, you can ask questions, like nothing's kind of off the table. I mean, the goal is to, if I'm right, create a better, understand better your subject of what you kind of want to achieve, your goals, your ambitions, how you're going to get there. And then the other kind of pathway is the path to drudgery and, Satan, which is
There's a big muddy pit and there's someone stuck in it.
which is the mindset of, a judgmental mindset. So you're kind of got preconceptions, you're closed, not open to kind of a different way of seeing things, and sort of pointing the finger at everyone except yourself.
Yeah.
It's like man in the mirror, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Like if you kind of zoom out to like a cartoon version, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's very Tom and Jerry, wasn't it?
What tends to happen is that everyone gets to this point at some point. You start to ask questions like, why am I such a failure? Why are they so stupid? Why bother? And that's the point to go, uh-oh, I'm in the pit. Hold on a second. Let's reverse. Oh, and the question that starts it off.
Whose fault is it? Never my fault. Never.
Never my fault.
Never my fault.
So if you go back.
Is this, so there's two kind of interesting signs along the way, which the path to the learner mindset has the assign, choose, and the path to the judgmental mindset has the word react. So is this referring to kind of that emotional response?
Yeah, that snap response, that posture. So for example, if we zoom this back out, so I know we want to wrap up, zoom it back out to someone coming in the door for a bike fit. Let's say they come in with a beta that they found at the side of the road. And they're a bit dirty and a bit smelly, but they happen to have £400 for a bike fit. And they rock up with their bike, looking like this, and they say, right, I want a bike fit. You have a choice to either welcome them in and start to have that lovely conversation. I go, oh my God, get that disgusting thing out and go and have a shower. And react to it. And so one of the things that we work on is curiosity questions. And the first curiosity question, if you find yourself in that kind of situation, is what is there for me to learn here?
Well, that's a big one, isn't it?
Right. And you can take it even smaller to like even just someone comes up wearing mountain bike clothes and they've brought in a road bike.
So I don't even see that sort of stuff. Because I do that. But yeah, no, it's like the preconceptions of what should happen versus the reality of what is in front of you.
Yeah.
You know what people say all the time as well when they come in is like, or before they even booked as my bike fit, they're always like, oh, I'm not a professional. You guys must see professionals all the time. I'm just, I only do this for fun. And like, who do you see in here all the time? You must see professionals in here all the time. Like, no, like we just see people like you. We hardly see any professionals. In fact, professionals, they don't need people like us.
Exactly.
And it's really interesting where culturally bike fitting has kind of positioned itself and who ends up coming in for bike fits and who wants a bike fit. And what they think bike fit is, and it's a constant. I don't want to use the word battle, but I feel like it is a struggle to kind of reposition culturally what bike fitting is and who's welcome, who needs it, and what you should expect from it.
I think you can zoom that out even further to cycling in general.
Yeah,
it's like so many like preconceptions about how you should ride your bike, what kit you need to have, all this kind of stuff. Like cycling's a fairly broad church, but everyone wants to, and we've talked about this on the podcast before. Like everyone wants to identify with a tribe in some way, shape, or form, and it's like going back to I think what you're getting at with what can I learn. It's like, right, okay, there's always context. I need to find more context. I need to learn about that person. I need to learn. They're obviously here for a reason. Why are they here? And like start asking questions, basically. So it's like they're choosing that kind of mindset of learning versus the mindset of judgment.
And on that, I want to take this opportunity to honour the work that you've been doing with opening up cycling and bike fitting to a wider audience and a wider community, and how you championed at Cloud9 the award there, and
that was interesting. it's kind of on hold at the moment, but we're hoping to bring it back again. So, and the ultra distance scholarship and things like that. Yeah, that's been a really interesting kind of like project. It's it's been quite a journey trying to figure out where that sits in all of this. But when you feel like something's the right thing to do, but you don't really know why. I think that's what you kind of do. You answer a lot of the whys. So yeah, cool. All right.
A lot to think about.
That
was wicked.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gillian.
Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I think this stuff needs to be talked about more. Like, at the end of the day, it's people skills, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is very much people skills, but just brought in the context of bike fitting. You're uniquely positioned as understanding bike fitting, but also people and parents. So where can people find you if they want to see what you do?
You can currently find me at coachfromtheheart.org for sports coaches and youth sports, and Contact Point on Instagram. I'm still working on my marketing stuff. And I'm hoping to do a in-person course on the 13th of November, potentially at Talk Cycling HQ. Right. So if you want to get in touch with me, Gillian with a G at talkcycling.com. If you're interested, you want to know more, or you'd like to book any education for your shop or your workplace.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Gillian. All right. Enough about butts.